It literally, okay. Like I touched something and the whole thing goes blank. Nobody's on here yet?
That's weird, right?
I mean, it's in 10 minutes, right? Oh, is it the right thing?
No, there's only one link there.
Just double checking. Making sure we're on the right link. That's the prep one. Is it the same? Yeah, I'm being told that the video is not going.
I can see you perfectly.
No, I'm being told that the thing isn't going to the link anymore. Yeah, I just tried it again. This guy told me it's not working, but I, went right to the page.
Oh,
Of course, I've been telling people about your strength and for women and leading women. It's just amazing because we see this council as being one of the biggest councils that we have in the C-suite network. It's certainly one of our strongest and biggest that we've seen. So just hats off to you. So I'm going to jump right into the program. I'm going to start sharing my screen. What we're going to do is just go through and I'm just going to like put the quarter in, go for full speed as fast as possible, leave lots of room for questions. If you have questions, throw them in the thing into the mix. I'll try to get to the chat as much as possible. Although my attention span is about half the size of a gnat, so it'll be very difficult for me to pay attention to them. But I'll do my very best, and we'll certainly get to all of them. And I'll stay for as long as anyone wants. And I've also put my email here. So, except that I've just noticed Internet work. I spelled my name wrong, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that. See, I'm a little bit dyslexic. So I actually will type things wrong. And when if you get something from me ever and it's misspelled in any way, shape, or bad grammar, I sent it. So that's one of the cool things. So people always say all the time, you should change this. I go, I don't want to change it. They know it's me. If it's perfect, if it's clean, if it's good, it's not, then they know it's not me. So I just appreciate it so much. So thank you guys very much. Let me put on my little slide deck here and put it into the presentation mode that I need to do. And I'm going to do that. Of course, you mentioned the work that I did on Bloomberg and certainly All Business with Jeffrey Hazen on C-Suite Radio and C-Suite TV, which is one of our leading podcasts and TV shows. And of course, it appears on United Airlines. And we've been the longest running show on United Airlines, over 5 years this year. So we're pretty excited about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so we're going to take some of that experience and show you the ways in which you need to start positioning yourself, because it's really truly about turning up the volume on your business. And you've got to reposition yourself truly as a media company moving forward. I don't care whether you're a dry cleaner in St. Louis. You have to become known as the doctor of spots. You have to become known as the thought leader in your business. And you gotta quit playing this game on being on rented ground and rented space and just being on Google, just looking for search. You've got to make yourself a media company so people can find you and in the ways that you want to be found. And so we have a lot of top level business podcasts. We have a great reach in our network in terms of who we reach out to, how many people we're seen by, 70 million downloads. I mean, it's amazing to see the growth, and it's not even close to what we're going to do this next year. Next year is going to be 5, 10, 20x that in terms of where we're going for the future. So I want to talk to you about this new game. And I talk to thought leaders all over the place, and I'm talking about thought leaders being, those folks that have great intellectual property, a great heart, and whether they're a coach, a trainer, an author, speaker, or a business leader of an entrepreneur or a enterprise organization, it's a new game. It's a new game for every one of us. And you've got to be seen as the expert in your field. You have to be seen as the thought leader. And I don't care whether it's a retail business or, as I mentioned, you're an author, speaker, coach, a thought leader in what's been traditionally the thought leader space. You have to become the expert, and you have to be seen as that trusted thought leader. And how do you do that? There's a number of ways to do that. But the most important and the easiest way and best way is to be a media company. And what do I mean by that? And what I'm going to talk to you about that because it's been easier than ever before to be a media company. And that I've found is that content drives community and community drives commerce. So it used to be, they used to say content's king. Well, content's king, activation is queen, but context is the kingdom. So where the information, where the content is seen or heard or read is as important as anything, because we're no longer in a game of what I call eyeballs and ears. It used to be about getting more followers. It used to be about getting the most views. It used to be about getting, on a major broadcast. It doesn't make a difference as long as you're being read, seen, or heard. Got it? That's the key. And it's not a game of eyeballs and ears. It's a game of hearts and minds. And so we're going to help you build that hearts and minds by building the community. And by building that community, you're going to be able to get greater reach, discovery, and conversion, because this is truly a game about relevancy. It's a game around relevancy in terms of being found in the right places at the right time by the people that you want to, and having the influence that you need to have in that community, and then nurturing it over a period of time so that they stay with you. I mean, the average executive leader in our organization is with us for over 4.8 years. I mean, that says something when we see that in the C-suite network. And so what I encourage you is that you're going to need to do this fast, and you're going to have to build it as you fly, because you're not going to be able to get it perfect. Okay. You're going to learn as you go, and you're going to get better. But the fact that you're doing it is the real game. Okay. So forget perfect. Forget that you have to go build it perfect. Just jump in and to get started, and you'll figure it out, because we're in what we call a land grab. And we're about to go out into 80 different communities. And in those 80 communities and over 276 television stations, we're going to build a digital network, okay, to take your podcast, repurpose it as television as well. So it'll go into YouTube, sure, for, be alongside all the cat videos and everything else. But people aren't looking for business content there. They're still looking for business content in the places they like to look for business content. So you want to be on those places. And so we're going to build that digitally at a local level. So you're going to have a local network podcast, local network television, plus a chance to take that television or that video to broadcast. And if it's really good, go to our fast channel at a national level. And so this becomes the brand of you. Okay. So that when you sell you, you sell the business. When you sell the business, you sell you. You can't separate the two when you're a thought leader. And that's okay, because some of the greatest retail companies have been led by people who were the thought leaders in their industry. Think about Dave Thomas. I watched him. He used to be an executive, if you remember, at Kentucky Fried Chicken, until he decided to go out and create his own thing called Wendy's. And I once was sitting down having lunch with him at the International Franchising Convention. Linda, you might remember this. I said to him, I said, "Hey, Dave, why do you have square burgers?" He goes, "We don't cut corners." I thought that was great. I thought it was a great answer. So the brand of you, and he sold himself, and of course he became a household word. So this is about selling you. about positioning you as the thought leaders to sell the business. And the easiest way to scale your message on community and your RI is podcasting. So podcasting is simple and easy to do, okay? It's a way for you to leverage other people's money, a way for you to interview the people you mostly want to do business with. Now, a lot of people tell you, oh, no, what we need to do is interview celebrities and folks like that. I'm telling you, you can do that. It's not going to work. What you want to do is mostly look at interviewing the people you want to do business with. So you use it as a lead funnel. And so really what we start to focus in on is things like what I call the 4 E's around engagement, education, excitement, and evangelizing, rather than building this thing up to be a celebrity, be something that we truly aren't. Now, eventually you can become a celebrity, but it's more about building fortune than building fame. Okay. And that's the models that you want to look at. Okay, there we go. So we really want to focus in then on what's the goal? What is it you want to get done and where do you want to go? So I always tell everybody, pick fame or pick fortune. You can only pick one. Which would one you pick? Now, some people will say fame, and I will tell you most of the time you want to focus on fortune. You want to build a media company where you build on the fortune, you build on the fact that you can build your business rather than build on your name being fouled or your name being more famous, your name being recognizable. Those things are great, but if you do a good job with fortune, you get the fame for free. And if not, because you've done so well with the business, you can afford to buy it. Okay, there you go. So it drives two things. It drives new business and it drives brand value by focusing in on the fortune. Linda said this earlier about one of the greatest things that you can do with this is it will be a lead generation funnel for you. That's what we use it for. There is not a week and many times a day that doesn't go by that somebody doesn't say, I saw your show in United Airlines. I listened to your podcast or something where it comes in. Today alone, I got 8 different leads that came in through directly to me as a result of my content. So you want to think about, how do you continue to drive those kind of things on an ongoing basis? 2 of those is it builds business, it builds new business. So I get business from this and I build my brand value. So what's the number one reason to do a business podcast? I've told you is to focus in on I focus in on the criteria. So I go after only those people I want to do business with. So you see right here, this is my criteria. My producer happens to be on this call right now. She knows that if someone writes to me and says, Jeff, I want to be on your show, great. Love to have you on my show, but you can't be on my show unless you're a large social media following of 100,000 more. Okay. Most are $1 million or greater. You lead a scale of a business greater than $100 million. Okay. Because these are the businesses I like to do business with, and that they must be well known or notable. So you want to think about what it is your target audience. That's how to be successful by focusing in on what's my target audience, my avatar. Where do I want to go? How do I want to get there? That's where you want to focus. So then what you really want to look at is then what's the new things driving our business models. Okay. It should be in certainly our content or our outreach. It should all be about driving scale, reverb, where I can take a message and get more followers, more friends, more BFFs, all right, where I get more engagement around the video, the view, and the time. I mean, I'm finding, by the way, a lot of people have given up on Twitter. I'm finding that my views on Twitter go through the roof every time I do a video over that of LinkedIn. I'm actually getting more brand involvement through that particular following. And by the way, I have most of my followers there, over 500,000 there, as opposed to I think it's about I don't know, 70 or 80,000 that I have on LinkedIn that are followers. So I tend to get more engagement around that. And then quality versus quantity. It's content versus impressions. I would much rather be the key question that people search for and only 80 people find me as opposed to 80,000 people who watch the video or watch it. Because again, old versus new, eyeballs and ears, right? Versus hearts and minds. I'd rather have hearts and minds. So you want to kind of look at how you focus on that. So what do I need to be or have for a successful podcast? It's really pretty simple. I have to have frequency. So typically at least twice a month. Okay. Now, there are some people who do podcasts where it's 8 episodes, then they take a break for a few months, then do 8 episodes, take a break, and then do 8. if you really truly want to see the most successful podcasts, they have good frequency. They're weekly and some even daily. All right. Because remember when I talked to you about interview the people you want to do business with? Well, let's say that you close 20% of the people that you have on the show. All right. Let's imagine you get the right kinds of people on the show, whether it's for speaking, consulting, or whatever it might be. All right. And if you close 20%, that's pretty cool. But if you're only doing 10 shows, that's only two people, right? So you might want to think, or excuse me, yeah, two people. So you might want to just have to check my math there for a second. So thanks for bearing with me. So think about that frequency. If you do 50 shows, then how many would you potentially get in a particular year? So you really want to look at that. So maybe it's 10, maybe it's 20. So how do you increase your close rate? You might have to do more shows. You might have to do 2 a week. But anyway, nonetheless, frequency. It's important to be regular and to do it on an ongoing basis so people can anticipate when you're going to be out there again. Because out of sight is out of mind. Out of sight is out of mind when it comes to media. The second is length. Okay, here's a real key thing. We'll teach you 888. Okay, segments of eight commercial, eight commercial, eight commercial. By the way, 8, 8, and 8 counts up to 24 minutes. The average business podcast is 22 to 27 minutes long. Got it? But if you want to be in TV, it's got to be 24 minutes. So your podcast wants to match your potential for television, potential for exposure. So you want to be 24 minutes. Or if you want an hour show, it's 48 minutes. These are the things that most people won't teach you. We'll teach you these things so you do it. And do you want audio and or video? You want both. All right. This becomes a TV show. I can make this into a TV show, throw some lower thirds, throw a sidebar on it. Maybe not have Trisha in the background. Okay. But she stepped out for a second, but maybe Trisha is sitting in the background. You have a professional studio, so it's very good. And then studio, you can do it remotely. You don't have to do it. CNN, COVID, all of these, combined showed us that you could do this if you just get innovative with your background. And so you might have to invest in a better green screen, might have to invest in a better background. I just happen to be in in one of our offices today, so I'm doing it from here. Otherwise, I would be sitting normally in a studio somewhere, and you want to be able to focus on that. Okay, awesome. Now, production. How easy is it to do the production? I'm telling you, the startup of this is like 1,500 to 2,000. You'd think you need all this equipment, and you really, truly don't need a lot of fancy equipment. The whole startup you could do for about 1,500 to 2,500. I'm constantly setting up studios in our different places that we're going around. The mic runs between $100 and $200. The camera, 150 to 2,000, depending on how fancy you want to be. And then production runs you about 150 to $1,000. To do a television show, we're going out on this Go Big tour, and I'm telling you, we're going to be charging people $800. $800 to do a half-hour video show. Okay, half hour. Give you podcast and video for $800 now. And we're lining up production partners all over the country to help you do these kinds of things. So again, our models, and we'll talk about these a little bit later. Do it yourself, do it with you, or do it for you. So it's very inexpensive to get into this business, very inexpensive to do it. It used to cost me many tens of thousands of this earlier on. And then over the last number of years, when I first did it with CBS, when I was at CBS as well, doing my podcast on the CBS radio network, it was a lot more expensive. I had to go into the studio and shoot and do all this stuff. And we only did audio. We never did video. And back then I was doing an hour-long show till I figured out no one wants to listen for an hour. Most people were tuning out. And again, think about who your listeners are, because many times, now we know this from the analytics, we can tell whether they're listening from their watch, they're listening from their phone. We can tell whether they're listening during drive time, so they're on their way into the city or out of the city. And we find that typically that 24 minutes is about what you want to be, right? So they can either listen to it halfway on the way to work, the other half on the way coming back, or they're listening while they work out. And I don't know about you, I'm not working out for longer than 24 minutes. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, the average, I said before, if you look at podcasts on average, they're 40 minutes in average. Business is about 25. We're going to tell you to get it down to 22 to 24 minutes. That gives you enough for intros, exits, maybe a little thing at the end, because at the end of every podcast, I say, hey, let me tell you about what I just learned. And I give it a quick summary, and then boom. And by the way, I summarize all those at the end of the year, and people love that. Okay, so it becomes an anthology kind of at the end of the year, my best things I learned. And by the way, quality of sound is everything. So you got to have some audio tools. There's some tools that we'll give you a list of that you can add that knocks out like loud noises or pops, or you don't want this going on, because you got to think you're in someone's ear and they're not going to like those kinds of things. So ads are optional, but typically you're almost always going to have a pre-roll and post, but you do want at least an interstitial. You want to have your partners be able to make some money. And then last but not least, I'm sorry, a read-in versus dynamic. Listen, we get away from read-ins. You don't want to do read-ins unless you're getting paid a lot of money. Also, when you do a read-in, it typically means that you're reading in the ad, and it's evergreen. It means it never comes out. And what happens if that company goes belly up? What happens if that company is bad, meaning somebody's being, did something illegal? You're stuck with that forever. And so we tell people dynamic, dynamic, dynamic. That lets us do the insertions. Everything is done digitally, and it's a lot easier. And we'll show you how to do that. It's so simple. And I do commercials all the time. I'll take a break and I'll say, we'll be back right after this message. Then we 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, we're back with All Business with Jeffrey Hazlett right here on C-Suite Radio, C-Suite TV. And of course, that pause lets my team know that's the break to throw the ad in. Anyway, just little tricks of the trade. And then downloads don't mean anything. When people start telling me about, oh, they got this many downloads, this many, they're the number one podcaster in the top 1%. Oh, come on, give me a break. It doesn't mean anything. This is a game about how you use this, content to kind of get the business that you want. Some things that you would do: briefing sheets. I always get a briefing sheet. Allison, my producer's here. I always have a briefing sheet, sample questions, everything. It's awesome. Prepare ahead of time. You want to do a good job. You don't want to get on there and say, hey, Linda, tell me about yourself. That doesn't make for a good date, and it sure doesn't make for a good show. Okay. I should have already known who you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it, the way you're doing it. And then intros are always awesome. You heard Linda's, it's almost as though she practiced it. She's just so good at it. But the more you do of those things, the better you get at them, and you kind of get a good cadence down. And that cadence really helps you a great deal. Guest questionnaires, we show you some sample questions you might send to a potential guest, and those kind of things. And sometimes, obviously, you might want to do, say, a pre-interview so that you can kind of get ready for it. After a bit, you'll stop doing those. Quite frankly, I'll tell you that. I used to do those. You just get really good at what you do and how you do it. So you don't need that unless you're really trying to get one particular thing over. I always ask the guests, what is it that you want to have brought out? And many of them say, hey, I got a book coming out, Jeff. I got this coming out. And then sometimes I'll say, tell me what things you might not want to talk about. Now, depending on who I'm interviewing, I may or may not let that happen. We might have that discussion because, mine's more of a news show. And so I'm going to talk about the things that are a little tougher. So for instance, I recently had the CMO of Chick-fil-A on. Of course, we touched on the fact they're not open on Sunday. We touched on the fact that their founder was to the right of center. We touched that their founder didn't believe in same-sex marriages. And so, nothing they haven't, talked about before, but to me, those were important subjects to be able to talk about. And so those were not off limits. Would I have let him on the show? Probably not, if I couldn't have talked. But that's my show. That what fits my show. You find out what fits yours, and you find out what's important. This is my stuff. Okay, I'm showing you what I use. I use. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, sorry. There we go. You think I'm a newbie at this, but I'm not. Okay, so I use this Samson meter. There's a silver one and a black one. I like the black one. I just think it looks better, and it screws on to this little stand that's over there for $16.95. That's very handy. So I can take that little one on the road, and it stands up like this. It gives me excellent sound, or I can put it on this stand. And so in my various offices that I travel around, I have the stand, there's the mic. And then I usually buy just this simple Logitech. I'm also using a Razer Pro camera now. It's a Razor, Razor Pro camera. And I think it goes for about 200 or 300 bucks. I don't know. Maybe Allison, you could look it up and then see which one it is. And I also buy a thing called a PlexiCam, which is a little simple thing that goes over my screen, and it puts it at eye. So when I'm looking right here into the camera, it's or right below the camera, it's acting like a teleprompter for me, but it looks as though I'm looking into the camera. And then I use a JB 5 waterproof, camera. Why is it waterproof? Just because it is. Or I'm not camera, but speaker. And I use that speaker for the sound feedback. So I have a mic, and then I have a regular, because I'm hard of hearing, and I don't normally like to wear headsets on my interviews. And so that's the way that I do it. So it's just a very simple thing. So 100 bucks, 200 bucks, 10 bucks, and 100 bucks. And you can buy these things used, by the way. Great thing. I've also used the Yeti mics, and I have some of those. I typically break the Yeti mics. That's why I don't like to use them, because they have a hook up in the back. And so sometimes I'll hit that, or I'll hit the microphone and I'll break off the piece that goes into the mic feed. So I really love this Samson mic. It's just it's absolutely one of my favorite. And by the way, that thing folds up and it's like a small potato, and it folds up, and I could stick it in my bag and carry it in my bag. And so I love that. So really think about what you want for equipment production, set a budget, ask other podcasters, that's a good thing. Always do a tech check, work on yourself. And of course, the key thing is to create really compelling content. And so there's a lot that we can do for you in terms of startup packages that we have, in terms of things that we can do, pre-production elements, artwork, coaching, music selection, all the different pieces that you have. It doesn't take much to put it together. Literally in a month, you could be doing your very first episode live. We'll coach you through it, help you do it, help you to crawl, to walk, and to run, and to put together some packages that will make it compelling for you. Lots of ways to be able to do it in terms of cost. We have partnerships with our folks that will make it happen for you. But the key thing then is, once you've got the podcast, is your marketing and selling. You want to look at, maybe, do you want some sponsorship? You could get a big sponsor. Sometimes I have mine's been sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts for years, and I'll go and give a free keynote as part of their package, do some different things. Fortinet's been my sponsor. This is actually my rate card. This is what it looks like, the package. And then we tell people this is what we'll do. I give them a live read-in, 15-second spot per show. I give them a dedicated email per month. I give them a category exclusive sponsorship, 2 million impressions, weekly message to employees. Like for Dunkin' Donuts, I always ask the question of the guest, hey, what's your favorite coffee, or what's your favorite donut? And they give that to me, and that clip goes to 180,000 employees at Dunkin' every single week. So lots of different things that you could add or package with that, in order to be able to do it. And then of course, the dropping of the ads is very simple. This is where it is. You'll see these markers that you drop in, and then during this period is where the ads would be. So you find in this particular case, the mid-roll, this is where we would drop commercials in. So you find a gap in those, and easy to do. Either you can do that, or our team will do that for you. If you were to do some advertising on the thing, this would tell you if you had 1,000 downloads per month. Now, the average business podcast has about 2,500 per month. So if you had some spots and we were doing some kind of ad split or something on it, you can actually make money with it. In some cases, for some of us, if you have a couple 100,000 downloads per month, you have 4 spots, you can take that. Wow, it becomes some pretty decent money for you if you can get up to that level. But again, it's not always about the money. It's about the positioning, right? It's about using it to get greater reach, discovery, and conversion. And so you need to know that it's also hard to go at this alone. If you don't have a network, if you're out there in podcast purgatory, because what you do is you download your podcast, you put it out to the network. It goes to about 8 major engines out there, but there's another 1,400 engines out there. And so you want to be on all those too. And we found out that you need to have what we call the network effect. By being a part of a network, by being seen as a headliner and as a primetime host, that's what we call you, on the headliner on the podcast and primetime host on on the TV side, you're going to get a lot better in terms of things. And it makes you not a statistic. So, because let me give you some numbers here. 38%. 38% of most podcasters who start never make it past the 10th episode. 38%. 48% never make it past the first year. So what we want you to do is be part of a tribe. We want you to be part of a network where you can learn, have the support of others, and be seen as differentiators from everybody else in the market. So we will ask you, if you're going to do a podcast, to commit to 1 year, or at least set a number of the podcasts that you're going to do. And so, and then the other thing we do, you can see here, we give you the badging. This badging is important because it also means they can find you a lot easier. And it's, of course, a differentiation, because if someone doesn't have a badge, then you got to say, well, what network are they with? Well, they're in network podcast purgatory. That's where they're at. So 2 choices for you: elite media network, or be stuck in podcast purgatory with the masses. We don't want you to do that. What do you do when you get this network affiliation? You get hosting, you get a resource library, peer education, executive access, marketing, network affiliation, and advertising. So we show you all the things that we can help you do, things that we give to you: the briefing sheets, the sample questions, post activation letters, sample post, activation, reactivation. We also will spend money advertising on the show. Today, Trish, you can shake your head if this is true. We agree we're going to spend $1 million this next year just in television advertising nationally in these local markets. We committed that today. It's right here on this sheet. Can't show it to you, but it's on that sheet. Okay. I don't want you looking it up with all the, whose name's on there, because it's right on there, but I can't show that to you. So anyway, but we just committed today to $1.2 million, actually $1.2 million in new advertising that we're going to spend on television, just in local television markets, to be able to promote our podcasters and our TV shows. I'm pretty excited about that. And so truly, we're going to be helping to amplify. We give you a marketing system. We give you a little book that shows you how to do all this, what to do, the ways to do it, follow the systems. And by doing it, you win. And that's what happens. And so we do it with social media. We do it with press releases. We do it with blogging. We do it with the newsletter. We do it with advertising. These are ads that we run in particular magazines. I think this one here, this one is a manufacturing magazine that we have. This one happens to be in a leadership magazine we have. And then these are local ads that we're running on various channels for these individual podcasters. Why? Because we can, and because it works. And then we'll give you those ads if you want to do it yourself. And then, last but not least, we give you all kinds of analytics that tells you exactly where people are listening, where around the world they might be listening, how they might be listening, what devices, detailed audience reporting, times, locations, listening habits, everything. And why is that important? Because you'll make changes in the things you say because of the people that you're representing. My second largest audience outside of North America, I've said this many times, happens to be India. And so I used to say things like, hey, after the show, I'm going to go for a big juicy steak. Probably not the coolest thing to say to people in India. So I learned to say, hey, I'm going to go for a bindi and a curry. And now people are sending me bindi recipes and what's my favorite curry. And of course, now I'm engaging with my fans in a much better way. And what happens? Business comes out of that. I will tell you, business comes out of it. Okay, that's the end. That's all there is. I got no more to say. And Linda, I'll turn it back over to you, and stop sharing. And certainly I'll be glad to answer any questions that